Okay.
Just let me share the screen. Huh? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. And here in Malaysia, you are in the evening, you know. Others, I don't know, perhaps they are in different times. So we have to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this opportunity to be here with you today. And the focus of discussion on today's class, it will be on the characteristics of Islamic worldview. When you look at the characteristics of Islamic worldview, so they do reveal the nature of Islam as a way of life. And as we mentioned previously, Islamic worldview, it is not different from Islam as a way of life. And everything that Islamic worldview provides for us, it is in line with the teachings of Islam. And here we are going to focus on some selected characteristics of Islamic worldview. The first one, that is Rabbaniyya. The second one, Ashumul. The third one, Tawazun. The fourth one, Thubut wa Muruna. The fifth one, Al-Waqi'iyya. And the last one, Al-Alamiyya. Now we'll go briefly, let's say, by looking at them one by one. When you look at the first characteristic of Islamic worldview, it denotes, as it is mentioned here, when you look at the term Rabbani, it denotes that this worldview comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This worldview comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Rabbani here at the same time denotes a characteristic that the person develops while he is getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he acts according to the divine commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, that person, he will become a godly person. Godly person, it means that he shows his love towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then obeys according to the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the same time, he has a deep knowledge about the sources that will connect him with the Creator. And as far as Islamic worldview is concerned, the sources are Quran and Sunnah. And it is mentioned in Surah Al-Imran, the term itself. There are other verses that have mentioned this term, but this term is very near to the concept of Rabbaniyya, whereas the other term is denoting something else according to the context of the verse. In Surah Al-Imran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, كُونُوا رَبَّانِيِّينَ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تُعَلِّمُونَ الْكِتَابَ وَبِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَدْرُسُونَ. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing here the people of the book. And particularly, if we look at Jews and Christians, that is a reminder for them. At the same time, the term Rabbaniyin denotes here that Allah is reminding them to show the true love and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah sent to these two communities revelation through prophets. That is very important, you know. Therefore, when you look at the meaning of Rabbaniyya, a person should show love, and only then he'll become a divine-oriented person. When I say divine-oriented person, when he acts according to the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When in the Arabic term that is used, for example, as shakhsiyya ar-rabbaniyya. So Islamic worldview is going to enable people in general and Muslims in particular to develop that shakhsiyya ar-rabbaniyya, or if we say a divine-oriented personality. And in this context, it is in the light of the Islamic sources, that is Quran and Sunnah. And in order to understand this further, we have to understand the goals of this characteristic, the goals that it shows us what Islamic worldview is all about. Now, when you look at through this, it is presented like it is very important for human beings to understand his or, their final goal. If we say for human beings to understand their final goal, and the final goal, it is provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran. So how a person will be able to know his final goal if he does not follow a revelation that is revealed through the chosen one by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Then it will be a bit difficult, even though he is going to use his human nature, that is fitra, but still he will not be able to understand his goal. And as it is mentioned here in Surah Najm 42, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَأَنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الْمُنْتَهَى. So it shows that everything will come at the end. To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It means that the final goal for everything, according to the Islamic worldview, and based on these verses, it will be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we have mentioned previously, when I look at the relationship between the creator and the creatures, we know that the creator, there is no anyone before him and after him. Whereas for everything that is created, there is a beginning and there is an end. So we come from Allah and we return to him. Therefore, the end or the final goal for everything is or belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that when people know this, this will help them to regulate their day-to-day activities as far as this world is concerned. Imagine, as I mentioned before, if somebody doesn't know his goal in this life, he does know the meaning of life. He does know what he's supposed to do. Where is he going? From where did he come from? So all these questions that Islamic worldview provides proper or appropriate answer. This is very important. When I talk about how man is going to act properly and justly in his relationship with the surrounding, if there is no such, guideline to be shown to him. And at the same time, we believe that people have that hope in their minds therefore, when they attach themselves to this way of life, that is Islam, so they hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone should be adored and worshipped. That is what is required. When Islamic worldview teaches us and people, at the end, they will understand by knowing that the final goal belongs to Allah, so they are going to understand that the one who is supposed to be worshipped and adored is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is what they have to do. Otherwise, the moment that they go astray, especially those who are godly people, they immediately will come back to their senses and they will understand that they have committed a sin and they ask for forgiveness. But this will not happen with somebody that doesn't know this, So therefore, this will help the Muslims in particular, those who are attached to the Islamic worldview, to improve themselves, to become better Muslims, and to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when they know their goal, as I mentioned, that will be very easy. And here I have just mentioned some among many goals that we can achieve based on this Rabbaniya concept in the light of Islamic worldview. We can say that here, what people will be able to know, their goals in life, their directions, their motives, the nature of their mission, for example. So they will be able to know what they have to do in this world. When we talk about their goals in life, they can set for themselves certain objectives to be achieved. But how they are going to set these objectives if they do not follow the guideline that is provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So everything that people should do, it should reflect this Rabbani perspective in all their activities. And what kind of direction? There are many alternatives that Allah has shown to us, but He has shown to us the only one that we have to follow among many alternatives. And if people are going to choose other than the right alternative that is provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then distraction will be there, How do you know that distraction will be there? Then the Holy Quran has provided for us all these examples. There are many parables in the Holy Quran that is showing us if we say that the final destiny or end of people who followed other directions instead of following the direction that is the right one, that based on that Allah created them. And how they should behave, for example. That is very important. The way they should behave, what will be praiseworthy for them. And you know that Islamic worldview provides a system, a complete system of life that people should live according to that, and they should behave according to that. And at the same time, when you look at the nature of the mission, so they will not be able to identify unless they follow the Islamic worldview, as far as the mission is concerned. So the mission of human being, it is identified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we live in this world, what we are supposed to do. So we are here to inhabit according to the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to inhabit this world. The concept of khilafah comes in. And to worship Allah alone. The concept of ibadah comes here in. And to be just and fair. And to provide security. So the concept of amana comes here, and al-adl comes here. So all this, and above all this, what is our main mission? To convey the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to others. Beside all these supportive, if we say that missions that we have, the most important thing through all these activities, we have to share with others directly and indirectly the divine mission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is Din al-Islam, and the sources that we have mentioned here. Therefore, when we understand the nature of that godly person, when he achieves all this according to Islamic worldview, we believe that if he follows that, he will never follow things blindly. Why? Because a guideline is in front of him. The picture is very clear. He has a proper vision. And he will follow the right way. And of course, everything will be done according to the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he will admit that not only through his conviction, that is the inner aspect, but that will be reflected in his actions. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. You know, there should be a balance between the inner and the outer. And he will not be like those who deny the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we compare the godly person with the one who denies Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there you see there is a complete difference between them. Because the godly person will see the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas the other one who denies the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will not be able to see the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Perhaps he will enjoy life in this world. But life doesn't end here. So life continues. So people, they should know this reality, you know, that is provided by Islamic worldview. And when you look at it is a guidance for man's fitrah, and I refer this to Surah Rum, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ وَلَكِنْ أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. So that is made very clear here that Islamic worldview through this Rabbani characteristic will guide people to their fitrah. So even though we say that people live according to the human nature, that is the fitrah, but none of them will be able to know that they live according to the fitrah unless a revelation is going to tell them. So therefore we need this revelation to inform us about our human nature and how to live according to the human nature, how the human nature should be, you know. So everything is prescribed in the revelation, that is the Holy Quran. As it is mentioned here, so that is when people are guided by the human fitrah, but nobody will be guided according to the human nature properly unless he follows the revelation. You see that therefore Islamic worldview provides both the concept about the fitrah, how it is, how people should live, how do they have to understand it, to follow it, to live according to it, as well as this fitrah is described by the revelation. So both these are provided by by the Islamic worldview. Only then people they are going to be, to be oriented by the divine commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know that that if we look at other traditions or other worldviews, if I said that, customs, cultures, whatever they are, and human ideologies, perhaps they can provide for people, but not, if we say 100% justification as far as the human nature is concerned. Why? Because there is a gap, that belongs to the ultimate nature of the being, the way how Allah created things. So that will not be provided unless a person will believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, Iman is very important. People without having a sincere and Iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they will not be able to complete their nature. That is in line with the fitrah. And peace of mind, how we are going to get this peace of mind, how does Islamic worldview provides peace of mind through this Rabbani characteristic? And we know that Islam providing or looking at the fact that people are allowed to choose for themselves, but Islam has provided a guideline that people have to follow this in order to understand the reality. And when they follow it properly, only then they can get this peace of mind. It is like when you talk about sakina, tranquility. How can you get the real tranquility, It will be difficult to get tranquility if we don't believe in Allah. If people believe in what they have chosen for themselves, then this will not provide for them the real peace of mind. Like today, when you look at our contemporary time, that our life has become very complex, then the moment that we open our eyes, we see at things very difficult, and how can we attach ourselves to this contemporary time. But when we refer to Islam, Islam provides for all times and places, regardless of the consequences that we go through. Therefore, by believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then when we understand the concept of Tawheed, this will make people to feel this complete satisfaction. And it is mentioned here in Surah Al-Imran, who are those who are going to achieve this peace of mind. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَمَنْ يَعْتَصِمْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ هُدِيَ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. So only those who hold firmly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and only those are going to follow the straight path, as Allah will show to them the straight path, So we believe that Allah guides people. We cannot guide them. We just share with them, convey with them, communicate to them what Allah has given to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And freedom from the slavery of man's selfishness and desires. How Islamic worldview will help us by knowing that a person should follow this characteristic of Islamic worldview in order to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only then when he understands the reality, he'll be able to free himself from all these desires. We can say that we have desires like others. Allah created us in that way, but he gave us a guideline in order to live properly and to balance between our desires. When you look at, for example, personal desires and whatever it is related to this world, and everything should be done in line with the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we believe that one day we are going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only then, when people are aware of this fact, they will be able to warn themselves before they act. Here we can bring in the concept of Taqwa, for example. When I look at how Islamic worldview describes the concept of Taqwa, that is God awareness. So every person, or every Muslim in particular, when he becomes a muttaqi, a righteous person, then every time when he thinks or he acts, he has to bring that in the presence of his actions or thoughts, the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is very important, and this will help them to develop a sound thinking in line with Allah's revelation. And of course, that will be in line with the fitrah that Allah has mentioned in the Holy Quran, and our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned in his sayings. So that is very important, and we know according to the fitrah, in order to get rid of all things that man has created for himself as a center of worship, he'll be able to know according to the creation and the purpose of the creation that who deserves to be worshipped. Only then he'll be able to know the center of worship. At the same time, when you look at the second aspect of this characteristic, Rabbaniya, that Islamic worldview provides through this divine source and method. And you know that the method that is applied in our day-to-day life should be done in the light of Islam. Other than that, nothing will be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that, according to Islam, it has been planned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is in line with the Holy Quran. And you know that many methods, the way we act, the way we deal with the surrounding or things, with our life, community. So we have to establish a method that is designed by Islam according to the Holy Quran. And there are many parables in the Holy Quran when we look at the relationship between the prophets and their people. What kind of method did they establish? And that method is shown to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, that it belongs to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And through that, we are going to get the guiding light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His mercy. As it is mentioned here, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhan nasu qad ja'atkum ma'widhatun. When you look at this is a method, the guideline, a direction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mirabbikum wa shifan lima fi suduri wa hudan wa rahmatan lil mu'minin. So this is mentioned for whom? The believers. So all these characteristics will be achieved by those who believe in it. Like the mercy that we get, the guidance that we get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those who believe, they are going to enhance this and develop and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here we do understand that under this important characteristic of Islamic worldview, there are two significant aspects, The Prophet's position in this divine message. We know that what was the position of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The method that is described, it has been described in the Holy Quran, like as it is mentioned here, the message, it is Allah's message. It is not the message of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the path that is shown to him, it is Allah's path, Siratul Mustaqim. It was not the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it means that this message is from Allah showing to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam how and what he's supposed to do. But what is the position of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam towards this message? So he has to communicate, to introduce, and to call others to this message, as well as to clarify to them any kind of misconception or misinterpretation about the reality. So the same thing should be done by us as Muslims. When you look at our role as Muslims, should reflect the role of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And here in Surah Shura, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has addressed the importance of the message and what we are supposed to do. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَكَذَلِكَ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ رُوحًا مِنْ أَمْرِنَا مَا كُنْتَ تَدْرِي مَا الْكِتَابُ وَلَا الْإِيمَانُ. So it is very clear that everything is from Allah. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't know what was, this inspiration or the book and the guidance from Allah. وَلَكِنْ جَعَلْنَاهُ نُورًا نَهْدِي بِهِ مَنْ نَشَاءُ. Then Allah said that we have put this as a guideline, as a light that He guides whom He wishes. Among what Allah has created, as far as the human beings are concerned. وَإِنَّكَ لَتَهْدِي إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. So that is very clear that the guidance is coming from Allah, not from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that shows to us that we are not here to guide people. We are here in the light of this verse just to show to them the message. صِرَاطَ اللَّهِ الَّذِي لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ أَلَا إِلَى اللَّهِ تَسِيرُ الْأُمُورِ. So that is very clear that everything in the heavens and the earth that belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. and all the affairs are tended by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will, everything will go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the message that we get from here, it shows that this, everything belongs to Allah and everything comes from Allah. The message, it is from Allah. So what we are supposed to hear, we are just like a means of interpretation, means of communication, like a channel, you know. And what is the uniqueness of Islam and its message here compared to other existing messages in the world? And they were existing even during the time of the revelation. So if we said that the pre-Islamic Arabian society was not different from our society as far as these concepts are concerned, but the way they interpret it, it was very different. And Islam is different from all these things. For example, when we look at the first, that is secularism. And we know that this is established based on human understanding about the reality and how they have interpreted when they have come into contact with the empirical world. And they have created a worldview that is very limited. And the second one, that is based on human thought, when you look at other religious systems that have been created by people, and we can say maybe the kind of deviation that they have gone through is very far. And they have brought them even outside the revelation per se. And here I just mentioned Buddhism, Hinduism, Confucianism, Ahmadis, for example. When you look at Ahmadiyya, that is a sect among the Muslims, you know. But are they considered as Muslims? So that is according to what they understand, and Sikhism. And the third one, that is the distorted ways. And here we look at these two communities. Allah sent to them revelation, but they have distorted the revelation. Even though they claim to have a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but when we evaluate it in the light of the Holy Quran, we see that there is a distortion. And if there was no distortion, then there was no way, for the coming of the last message. So perhaps somebody will say that why, if others, because nobody will believe in that. Yes, we understand, but we look at it from the Islamic worldview. We don't look at it from their worldviews. According to the way they look at the reality, according to them, they don't see any problem for themselves, you know. But if we look at it from Islamic worldview, and this will make Islamic worldview unique compared to other worldviews. So that is the first characteristic, you know. When you look at the second characteristic, that is a shumul, comprehensiveness. So we have to understand here that Islamic worldview comprehends all aspects of life, related to both dunya and hereafter. And how do you understand here? When you look at these two aspects, the worldly activities, and perhaps today we are a bit confused, you know, the way how people divide these aspects of life. And when they look at religion, they put it in one among these aspects of life. But when you look at the worldly activities that Islamic worldview comprehends, are dealing with this. Perhaps we can say about the obligatory duties that we Muslims have to do it, as far as for example, when we talk about the prayers. You see everything that is in ibadah, but we talk about direct prayers. These are the rituals. But if we said that this is religion, then what would be left for Islam as a way of life? And I've seen that many scholars, we used to use the word religion, or religious aspect of life, or religious life, for example. What is meant by religious life? Knowing that Islam comprehends all this. And the second one hereafter, that Islamic worldview provides accurate questions to all, answers to all questions that are raised by people when they are living in this world. So they would like to know what will happen. Where are they going to go? What is death? What is the purpose of believing life after death, for example? So will life there will be better than here? So who is going to provide this kind of information? So Islamic worldview, through this characteristic, provides. We have to understand as Muslims that Islam is not focusing only on one aspect of life. Islam doesn't focus only on things related to masjid, for example. Islam comprehends all, inside the masjid and outside, inside our inner aspect of life and the outside. And when you look at it, that why Islamic message, it is comprehensive, and everyone should rule according to it. We cannot divide. Like, for example, maybe you have come into contact with people who say that don't mix politics with religion. And even Muslims do that, knowing that Islam is above politics, So politics, we can say, is a part of a Muslim's life. Now, a Muslim should govern people according to Islam. It's not the opposite, We don't have to govern Islam according to politics. But that is a problem that we face today. And here you can see that the balance that Allah has addressed in this Surah Al-Baqarah, 85, 86, as far as the people of the book are concerned. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. فَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْدِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْدِ فَمَا جَاءَ مَنْ يَفْعَلُ ذَلِكَ مِنْكُمْ إِلَّا خِزْيٌ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يُرَدُّونَ إِلَى أَشَدِّ الْعَذَابِ وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. So that is very clear that we Muslims, we don't have to choose. When you look at all these obligatory duties, we cannot just simply say that this is meant for the mosque, this is meant for outside, this is meant for politics, this is meant for this. So we have to look at it from that comprehensive perspective. As it is mentioned here, and أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَوُا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا بِالْآخِرَةِ فَلَا يُخَفَّفُ عَنْهُمُ الْعَذَابُ وَلَا هُمْ يُنصَرُونَ. So among those, when it goes back to the people of the book, so these people, they were not preserving the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were very selective when it comes to the application, the rules and the laws, So when it comes to the end, they are not applying. Perhaps those who had the position, there was no law to run after them or they committed a sin. So that is a problem here. When everything was mentioned in the book. So the book comprehends everything. So this is very clear that we have to understand here. As I mentioned here, that Islam comprehensiveness, it is made very clear. Why? Because what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed in the Holy Quran comprehends the visible and the invisible worlds. As it is mentioned here, this is just only one example. When I refer to Surah Nur, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَ كُلَّ دَابَةٍ مِّن مَّاءٍ فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَمْشِي عَلَى بَطْنِهِ. So that is a classification of the creation. And you can say this very comprehensive, that responds to Darwin's theory of evolution. You see, we cannot say that there is this creature is evolving from another creature. But when you look at the origin, everything is created from water. But Allah says, out of this, I created varieties. So various, when you look at the creatures that have been created and they have been multiplied. And the way they walk, the way they live. Ala batnihi, wa minhum man yamshi ala rijlayni, wa minhum man yamshi ala arba. You see? يَخْلُقُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Are we going to limit the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by looking at it from the human perspective instead of referring to this verse? So nobody will be aware if Allah does not reveal this revelation to us. Alhamdulillah, Another characteristic that is very important for us to understand, it is a tawazun. Now this moderation, perhaps I mentioned to you previously, Islamic worldview teaches us how to be moderate in everything we do. So there should be a balance. For example, here, balance in all these aspects. What does it mean? That each one of these aspects should be given its due attention without exceeding the limits. You don't have to incline yourself to one, like divinity and humanity. We know that all these are realities, that are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can we incline ourselves to one aspect and forget the other one? Spirituality and materialism, worldly life and the hereafter life, revelation and mind, past and future, individuality and collectivity, transcendental and changeable, realism and idealism. So all this, we can see that in our understanding, there should be a balance when we deal with these terms in order to understand them properly. But how we are going to have this balanced understanding if we don't follow a revealed guideline? So that would be a bit difficult, Perhaps people will be selfish. They will incline themselves to one aspect of life. But when you look at the Islamic worldview, it provides a balanced understanding where justice will be served. As it is mentioned here in Surah Al-Rahman, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانَ. So that is the balance. The term al-mizan is mentioned there. So for everything that Allah has created, there is a balance. Imagine if there was no balance in the creation. So this disorder was there. Corruption will be there. Destruction will be there. And that will, at the end of the day, this will lead to the destruction of everything. Allah tadghaw fil mizan. So that is reminding us that we don't have to do, injustice when we are going to measure things, to act. وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانَ. So that is very clear here, that we have to follow the divine commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to maintain this justice when we are dealing with others, with ourselves and others. And here I just mentioned to you what it is understood by this verse, that people should act justly in order to observe due balance in all their actions. If we don't act, and this is just one of the drawings that I have done in order to make you, to provide for you a clear understanding. When you look at the human nature, regardless of whatever we go through, if we follow the Islamic worldview, then we can achieve satisfaction. If we are dealing with things that are known to us and things that are unknown to us. So what will make us to balance this, And we have many verses in the Holy Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us what to say and what to do, When I say tawakkal ala Allah. So that will be very satisfactory to our actions, regardless of the result. Whatever result we get, we'll be happy, And when we say Alhamdulillah, so that will provide the real satisfaction. Then we can get this balance. Because the human nature, that is how, if human nature is not guided by revelation, it will be very difficult to achieve a balanced satisfaction. It will be very difficult, regardless of the situation. So the Islamic worldview will help us. And it is mentioned here, you see here how the balance, when it comes to our obligatory duty, as far as our direct communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as well as providing provision for us. So nobody can, Allah does not command us to say the whole day, 24 hours in the mosque and to offer prayers, a salat. Immediately there is a limited time for the prayers. Then after that, we have to run after our provision. Otherwise, we'll not be able to get the provision, even though we believe that Allah has written for us a provision. And you see in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, idha nudiya lis-salati min yawm al-Jumu'ah, fas'aw ila dhikrillah. You see, وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. So that will be very important for you if you knew it. So stop all the activities when the muezzin is calling for prayer for the day, for the Yawm al-Jumu'ah. فَإِذَا قَضَيْتَ الصَّلَاةَ فَانْتَشِرُوا فَإِذَا قُضِيَ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. So now after we perform our prayers, Allah doesn't say that you stay in the mosque. Immediately he said that فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. So there is a balance, When it comes, if I say that, maybe salat will help us to balance our inner aspect of life and the outer aspect of life. So salat will not be silent in the mosque only, because that will motivate us how to act outside the mosque when we finish our prayers. So that is how we understand, So that is provided by the Islamic worldview. That is a kind of tawazun that we should have in our life. Another characteristic that is very important, that is thubut and al-muruna, stability and flexibility. And these two characteristics, if I say, are provided by Islamic worldview. How do we understand this? Now, how we are going to have both stability and flexibility, Can you be, let's say, harsh and merciful at the same time, if we say that, But this is not related to these characteristics. This is related to the law and how the law should be applied, So the law, it is stable, is not subjected to change, but the way we deal according to our consequences, then we are allowed to be, to go in line with what we go through. Why? Because that is provided by the law. In other words, we can say that the interpretation that is flexible according to the time that we live as Muslims. Whereas the law, it is the same. It is like when we interpret the Holy Quran, we are dealing with the same text. The text is stable, is transcendental, not subjected to change. Is it clear? But when you look at the means and the times that Muslims have gone through within these 15 centuries, we have seen that they have interpreted the same text according to their needs. So that is allowed. Why? Because that will enable us to develop ourselves. Otherwise, if it is not allowed, then it will be difficult, you know. But of course, everything is done with what is meant to be stable and fixed according to the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, this is how it is understood. And here I just refer to this verse in Surah Shura, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَالَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمْ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورًا بَيْنَهُمْ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. You see, there is a consultation, mutual consultation among them. At the same time, what do? They spend out of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided for them and sustained for them. So there you can see these people, they establish regular prayers. Only then they can achieve that, you know. Those who are going to offer prayers regularly and they strive for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then they have this mutual agreement among themselves. And whatever they spend it from the halal earning and provision that Allah has provided for them. It means that there is all this. We can say that whatever they do it in line with what Allah has given to them. They do it in line with what Allah has given to them. It shows that there is, when we enter this shura or consultation, flexibility will be there, you know. And maybe I mentioned previously, when you look at the great imams, that these schools of thought came out as a result of interpretation and the way they provided their opinions, you know. Perhaps here we can refer this to the mutual consultation, the shura. If we say the way how they look at, for example, the prayers. And maybe I can say that this example, when Prophet ﷺ mentioned to the Muslims to reach Banu Qurayda before Asr, for example. Some of them, they prayed before that. Some they prayed when they reached there. But both of them were not, corrected by prophets, and we said that both are right. So it means that there is a room for this mutual consultation. But of course, we have to bear in mind that it is in line with the divine commandments. And we are sure that if that was the case, that Prophet ﷺ was going to, consult these two groups of people that had different opinions. And in other verses, this is very important here when you look at, as far as this thubut and muruna is concerned, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna Allah ya'murukum an tu'addu al-amanati ila ahliha wa idha hakamtum bayna an-nasi an tahkumu bil-adli inna Allah ni'man ya'idhukum bihi inna Allah kana sami'an basiran. Now, how we are going to judge? So from where do we get this, you know? If we do not know, then the guideline for judging between us and others, it is given by Allah. So that is stable. But the way we judge, according to the consequences, it means that we can use different methods while we are judging people, but we make sure that this is coming from this stable law that is transcendental in nature. Whereas the interpretation of this law, it is flexible according to the consequences. The people they go through. Let's say, like when you look at the single judge and collective judge, maybe I can say like maslaha al-mursala, that is related to the community. Priority is given to community, you know. Then how we are going to judge? Are we going to look at maslaha al-fardiyya or al-jama'iyya? The individual interest or the public interest, collective interest. So that depends on the consequences. Therefore, we are allowed to judge according to that. And here we can see the flexibility that is understood. And al-waqiyya, that is another characteristic of Islamic worldview. that shows the realism, the unity of soul and body. This is how we can understand this, but there is a balance, if we say that. A reality that people should understand, that the human soul exists and the physical body does exist. So nobody can deny this reality, you know. In other words, we can say we have to be realistic when we are dealing with the surrounding or the existence. And that kind of realisticism is provided by Islamic worldview. I think other worldviews are giving us partial understanding about the reality. What I call this the realism of the things, for example, how the things should be. And maybe you have realized that some of them, they have become skeptical, you know, they doubt in everything. They don't believe that even when they look at themselves, they exist, you know, to that level. And they cannot just simply tell us that, yeah, you are working for akhirah, then what about dunya? But we believe that dunya and akhirah are both realities, you know. So they come under this realm. And how Islamic worldview provides the best interpretation about this. And you see, this is another reality that people should understand. In Surah Al-Fatmir, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna Allah yumsiku samawati wal arda en tazula walayin zalata in amsakahuma min ahadim min ba'dihi innahu kana haliman ghafuran. Now, when we look at the reality that everything is sustained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now imagine if they should fail when it comes to others, for example, that who is going to provide this kind of sustenance? None except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are other ways that shows the uniqueness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is no one else to interfere unless Allah allows him to do so. Allah permits him to do so, you know. So that is the reality. For example, we see that people perform magic and people are blinded by that, you know, but that is the reality. But we Muslims are not allowed to believe in it. But that is the reality that we can see it in front of us, you know. Islamic worldview teaches us not to accept that, not to believe in that reality, but doesn't tell us that we don't have to see it. We can see it, it is there. We have to know that it's very harmful reality, you know. That's why Islam prohibits us. And the last characteristic, that is Allah Meeya. And that, of course, is, if I said that, it is not different from comprehensiveness, but this is dealing with time and space. Whereas comprehensiveness is looking at comprehending two aspects of life, including all aspects of life. But this is including times and spaces. Let's say that the message of Islam is universal until the day of judgment. And it is meant for everyone, for all people, and for all times and spaces until the day of judgment. So there is no any worldview that will come after Islamic worldview, when everything will be raised and destruction will take place, you know. That is how, when you talk about the sublime worldview, but other worldviews are there existing. But we are talking about the sublime worldview that is given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That will have this characteristic and as it is universal in nature. And in Surah Al-Araf, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Qul ya ayyuhan nas inni rasulullah ilaykum jamiyan. So that shows that the message of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is the Holy Quran, it is meant for everyone. Why? Because he is coming as the last messenger, close the door of the prophethood, the office of prophethood. So after him, there is no any one messenger to come. But we have seen that people claim to be, they prophecy, you know. Even today we have among others who claim to be prophets. And they claim to have, to get something from the unseen, you know. But this is made very clear. So that is a challenge for us as Muslims. But when you follow the Islamic worldview, then we'll get the right picture about the reality. And I think this is briefly. So I hope that you have understand these characteristics. And if you have any question, you can ask. Wabillahi tawfiq. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. It's all a big concept that we have to really understand. Al-Rabbaniyah, Ash-Shumul, Al-Awazun, Al-Waqiyah, Allah Meeya. Alhamdulillah, we have Lonnie Henry. He's a brother or sister? Lonnie Henry, please unmute yourself. Okay, if not, we try Brother Samsul. Yeah. Can you unmute yourself? Okay. Go ahead, Brother Samsul.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shahzad. My question is very simple. I want to know how Islamic worldview deal with the observable reality or observable truth and unobservable reality or unseen truth. I think that's my point. Thank you very much.
Observable and unseen truth. Okay.
Yeah, brother Shamsul, yeah, this is the reality, you know. But when we look at the Islamic worldview provides for us something that other worldviews do not provide. So we have the Iman. You see, Iman will make things very easy for us when you look at the seen and the unseen. So when you look at things that are visible to our eyes, Islamic view provides a very sublime description, a very comprehensive. And I think there is no weakness in the Islamic worldview, na'udhu billah, you know. But the same thing when we compare with other worldviews, they don't give us any proper description when we go to the unseen. Things that we, human senses are not able to interpret and observe. And Islamic worldview provides that, you know, through the revelation. As we have mentioned now, when you look at these characteristics, what will make the Islamic worldview sublime worldview and transcendental in nature because of these two aspects of life, you know, the seen and the unseen, the observable and the one that we are not able to see with our own senses, you know, and even perceive it. If we don't have the revelation, no one will be able to tell us, you know. Even a prophet without a revelation, like we have many prophets today, you know, they don't have a revelation. They are, if we said they are misguiding people, but the real prophet that is, chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we see the real revelation. You see, the Holy Quran will lead us to the unseen beyond times, you know, and space. You see, it goes back to the creation. When Allah created everything at the beginning, you know, and Allah is addressing himself through his characteristics. Nobody will tell us about this unless we have the Holy Quran. And that is the Islamic worldview. So therefore, we said that Islamic worldview is very comprehensive, and it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not from prophets, you know, it's not from human beings. Wa'na'udhu billah, you know, prophets, if that is the case, then they'll become, at that level of the being. Then they'll become like Christians, they call Pope as Ma'asum. You see, to that level, he goes beyond the prophets, you know. He does not commit, but the prophets were just only barking the message. They're not the founders. I hope this is very clear, you know. I hope that later on you'll understand, because they said that scientific worldview, it is challenging maybe the Muslims, for example, is very challenging for Muslims. But if we understand the worldview as it is given by the sources, then there is no one to pose any challenge to us, you know. As there is nothing to pose any challenge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to the Islamic worldview. Now you tell me who is talking about the angels. Science doesn't talk about angels. Then angels are not seen. Jinn, nobody talks about except the revelation. Allah is telling us, you know. So this is very clear, I think. So that will, clear our minds from the pollution that we are getting from the outsiders. So when we understand what we have, easily we can respond, inshallah. I hope this is very clear.
From Brother Ahmad Sudiro, based on the Islamic worldview, what is your opinion about the concept of ta'wil on the mutashabihat verses?
The concept of?
Ta'wil.
Ta'wil, okay. Now, Muslim scholars, they do differ, you know, when it comes to ta'wil, but I think if that ta'wil, it is in line with the Islamic sources, we don't have any problem, you know. So we accept that if we go in line with that. because we need that ta'wil in order to interpret the text itself. And this will provide solutions to all problems that we face in different times. So only then it will be accepted, you know. But if you relate to a particular, problem, that depends how do you solve that problem. Therefore, when we look at the reality that those who are dealing with these problems that they create, they're doubtful, for example, or they create confusion in the minds of the people, then those who are dealing should be well versed in both, you know. You see, they have to know the reality as a whole, as it is provided by Islamic worldview. Otherwise, maybe a corrupted interpretation will be there. Basically, this is how I understand, you know.
We take the last one from Brother Haq G.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Jazakallah khair for an excellent lecture. Islamic worldview, unfortunately, is not available even from Muslim countries. Forget about the world. Between the Islamic and the Western anti-God secularist worldview, which has all the power of the media. How can we overcome this and bring the Islamic worldview to the fore? Jazakallah khair.
Okay, it's a very broad question.
Yeah, this is this is the problem that we are facing today. You know, when you look at, but the problem might be with the means of communication. But those who are dealing with the means of communication, you know, therefore we Muslims we should fill the gap. Saying filling the gap, then we have to provide Muslim intellectuals or professionals in that field that will help us to if we say communicate the truth. But if you look at the reality, perhaps if we say that, and we believe in that, when Muslims they understand Islamic worldview perfectly and they live according to that, because that is Islam itself, then we'll not face any problem. At the same time, we have to know the tricks that are played by media today, because they are not, even though they talk about ethics, but we don't see the ethics there, you know. Then what is needed by us to provide that information to Muslims in general, in order to be aware of the problems that might be created by media, not only the TV, if we say that, or the newspaper, but we have the internet now. So if they are getting access to different types of information, so how can we, if we say that, monitor that kind of situation? Now, what Islamic worldview teaches us, and Islam per se, it is that we have to deal with the mindset of the people. We are not here to deal with all this, you know. I cannot say that the computer is Islam, because computer is invented by men. Now, my target will be men, not the computer, you know. So when we target the human mind, we change the mindset of the people, then the rest easily we can change. But priority should be given to the Muslim community, you know. So make them understand the danger that we might face, and make them to be very selective. We give them a proper guideline. This is what we do with the students, actually, you know. We see that students, when they refer to this source of information through this online or websites or different links that they go through, and they bring to us many false information that are not in line, and they say this is Islam, but that is not Islam. So we are, if we said that we are confused, so I think that we have to be realistic, you know. It is a challenge for Muslims, yes, but it becomes a challenge if we do not understand Islamic worldview and if we don't live according to that. But if we understand it and live according to that, then easily we can get rid of it slowly. You don't expect this, that we can get rid of it within a day and night. That requires time, you know. But as I mentioned before, priority should be given to the change of the mindset of the Muslims, to make sure that they live according to the Islamic worldview. Only then we can achieve. This is according to my humble understanding, you know.
Thank you so much, Prof. I think we have 5 or 7 more questions on the chat. We'll forward to you this week and last week.
Okay, okay, inshallah.
to reply. Any last final word, Prof, before we end?
Yeah, may Allah bless all of us and guide us to the straight path, inshallah. So you have to be patient. This, as Brother Sharan mentioned previously, we are going slowly because we want to understand things properly, you know. Therefore, other things that even you ask questions, we are going to discuss later on as well, inshallah. But this is good. This is good. So with that, I'm very thankful to all of you, and we appreciate what Allah has given to us. Alhamdulillah. May Allah bless all of us.
Yeah, Prof. See you next week, inshallah.
Inshallah.
The rest, see you tonight and next week also. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.